Welcome back to Tales from the Glass-Guarded World, Paxton and the Rugbuds, Episode 10. As usual, we have Pink as the DM, Brian as Paxton, and Brandon and Pavel as Lumpens. Ryan and Podrig couldn't make it this time. I was going to use Pink's introduction to stand in for my introduction, as I've done for the last couple episodes, but I am instead going to use this opportunity to point out to you that what Pink is doing is very impressive. He's taken someone else's campaign setting and someone else's convoluted story and used it to tell a new story, wrapping up all sorts of loose ends while working in some deep lore and obscure trivia. He's reintroduced side characters and characters only referred to in passing. He's bringing out all of Paxton's backstory in a way I was never able to do in the main story. I'm really impressed. It's a lot of fun for me to produce these episodes since I don't know what's going to happen before I listen to them. I hope you're enjoying them as much as I am. We will eventually get back to the main storyline and the Glass Guardians, of course, but we're going to stick with this story until its conclusion.
Welcome back to Tales from the Glass-Guarded World, where we reach the exciting conclusion of Paxton on trial. When last we left our napkin ne'er-do-wells, they had valiantly defended Paxton amidst a horde of witnesses, including another former observer. Against all odds, things seem to be going better than expected. Paxton himself has finally been called as a witness to his own defense, with a zone of truth being allowed by Consul Brennelfor. Will Paxton be able to clear his name? What ugly truths will be revealed in the process? Will Lumpen and Julie the Cactus be able to maintain their relationship amidst the drama to follow? Will we be invited to the wedding? Let's find out now. Welcome.
I object to us being called ne'er-do-wells.
I needed a hero name that started with an N.
Ne'er-do-wells aren't heroes, though. Those are villains, right?
It's all right. I'm hoping the audience just heard the alliteration and didn't think about it too hard.
Too late.
So the council has just heard from a series of witnesses, and now Paxton himself has been called to take the witness stand. So Paxton, Lumpen, you all watch, after a short amount of time, as an ancient-looking human woman with white robes and a set of large wooden beads around her neck enters the room. Consul Brennelfor turns to her. "Welcome, Aldreda. The accused stands before you." He makes a gesture over to you, Paxton. As she begins to shuffle towards you, Paxton, you've had all these witnesses come and testify against you. I want to know what's going through your head right now.
I think Paxton is feeling like he knows that Frith did some bad things, but it hurts to hear what those bad things specifically were. Like, it's easier to know that you did bad things, but you don't really remember it.
Yeah.
It's making him feel, not to be too on the nose for a trial, but it's making him feel guilty.
Right.
Can I ask a meta question?
Sure.
So, Brian, how much of this stuff that they've been talking about, was any of this covered in the memories that Paxton got from that memory machine thing?
Yeah, I think at some point in the game, I can't remember whether it happened on screen or off, but I think I have at least a 30,000 foot view of what's happened in Paxton's life, except for what happened whenever he was Frith, because those memories were stored in that crystal, and that crystal got broken before they could be uploaded to the observer ring in the top, because it was full of memories and never got cleaned out. So basically everything that he did as Frith, he's hearing about secondhand, like he got blackout drunk at a party.
Oh, I see. Interesting.
Yeah, I am curious though, Paxton, you heard the story of who these men were that you said when Paxton first woke up and kind of knew what was happening, he was in a cave surrounded by bodies.
Yes, that was Charles's dad.
Yeah, you finally found out who those people were. I was wondering how that affected you.
So, I'm not sure whether... So, everybody died, except for Paxton, and the observer crystal got crushed as part of the cave-in. Now, I'm not sure whether the cave-in happened because they were doing battle in a cave, or whether it was some booby-trapped thing that Frith had set up ahead of time as some sort of suicide trap. But, and I guess we never will know because Paxton doesn't have access to those memories. It could go either way, but either way, those people died because they were trying to bring Frith to justice. So, they were in the right. They were the good guys, and Paxton was the bad guy there.
Mm.
Does that answer the question, or were you shooting for something else?
No, I was just curious as to what his feelings were after kind of knowing that fact. After I imagine he's kind of wondered for a while about who those random people were inside of that cave.
Yeah, as soon as Charles, or not Charles, I can't remember his real name, but
Varen Bluefire.
Varen.
Speaking of which, I just want to say Varen and Bluefire, both of you guys need to go do an Apple podcast review right now. The time is up. You're on. You're already here. Go do the Apple podcast review. It's an order. All right. Sorry.
As soon as he said that his dad died in a cave, I was like, well, I remember that from day one of this campaign. So, yeah.
So Paxton, this woman shuffles up to you, and she's kind of decrepit. She's a human. She comes up to you, and she says, "Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth?" No, I'm just kidding. That's not what she says. She instead actually waves her hands around and she starts to mutter the familiar incantation for Zone of Truth. And you hear her say, "Let's get this over with." So suddenly, Paxton, you feel the spell begin to bear down upon you. Do you want to roll a charisma saving throw, or do you want to purposely fail?
Purposely fail. I'm just relaxing and letting it wash over me and accepting it.
Okay. So you feel the sudden obligation to speak only the truth. As that happens, you see this woman, she turns to Brennelfor and she nods her head and then she steps backwards towards the edge of the room. So Consul Brennelfor, he straightens up. "Defenders, as you were the ones to call for this witness, you may ask the first questions." And he turns to you, Lumpens.
This is Zone of Truth. Who is Paxton the only one within the zone?
Yeah, so this cleric woman, she's able to kind of make sure that it only targets. She has some sort of ability where she's able to kind of minimize the effect of the Zone of Truth.
Sorceress multiclass.
Yeah, so she's centered it on Paxton and Paxton alone. So he's the only one in it.
Mm. Do you want to start us off, Lumpin?
Let me look over my notes real quick to see what has been asked and is relevant. Should have done this before the session started, but
I could ask some questions if you want.
yeah, if you got some ready to go for it.
Hi, Paxton.
Hi, Lumpin.
How are you doing?
He kind of looks around and he's like, I've been better.
Yeah. So, these people said a lot of bad things about you.
Mm-hmm.
Did you do those bad things?
I honestly don't know. I don't remember. But, yeah, probably I did.
So, they said you were called Frith. Who is Frith?
Yes. Frith was a name that I used whenever I was an observer.
Were you always an observer before we met you?
No. I was born with the name Quia, and over time, my memories were wiped several times by a group called the Mountain Wizards that live in the world outside of this one. And at some
There's
point,
a gasp throughout the room as you say a world outside this one. People start very frantically muttering amongst themselves as you say this. A few people laugh.
At some point, they punished me by making me into an observer, which some people are compatible with being an observer, and some people aren't. And it is well known that if you are not compatible with an observer stone and they install one on you, it will slowly drive you mad.
Oh.
But I guess it was more important for them to get me out of their hair than it was, my health. So they put an observer stone in me and put me in this world and seemed to not care too much about the consequences. And it drove me insane. And during that time that I had the observer stone in my head, and I was going by the name Frith, I don't remember any of the things that I did, but I have heard that I have done some truly awful things for which I can never make up to anyone and can never be forgiven for. But at a point The Observer Stone was destroyed during a cave-in collapse, which I believe was whenever Charles's father, Varen's father, was seeking me out in a cave. And at that point, the crystal broke, and I lost my memories again. And that's whenever I started going by the name Paxton.
So, what were they punishing you for when they made you an observer? What did you do?
They were putting people from the world outside this one into lots of glass bottle worlds, this being one of them. This is what they call World 83. Can't remember off the top of my head how many of these worlds there were, but there's at least 83 of them.
Consul Brennifor, at that point, he just scoffs, and he's just shaking his head. There's like the people are talking very loudly as you go on about these multiple worlds and the glass worlds and stuff like that, and until finally Brennifor just kind of chuckles, and then he motions with his hands for everybody to quiet down.
Everyone that lives inside this world is descended from a relative who came from the outside world. These mountain wizards in this research complex that built all these worlds, they were wiping people's memories and then putting them inside these worlds. And they were doing it without giving them the full understanding of just what they were giving up and what they were being subjected to. And the fact that they could not knowingly consent to what they were being subjected to didn't sit right with me. And I led not just one rebellion, but multiple rebellions against these mountain wizards. Each time they would wipe my memory, but as I would slowly regain my memories and remember why I rebelled in the first place, I would lead another rebellion. And I guess they figured that as long as I was outside of the world, I would just keep doing it, which is why they made me an observer and put me here as a punishment to keep me away from them so that they could continue doing their work.
So, it sounds like you were trying to help people, is that right?
That's what I believe.
And that these mountain wizards didn't really care very much about the people who live in this world and other worlds. Is that right?
It's a tough question to answer. I don't think that they cared about the individuals that they were putting in these worlds. I think they probably saw their goal as solving a much bigger problem. The world outside of this one is... You know how inside this world it was getting hotter and hotter and hotter until the cap was lifted off the world and let cool air inside and the broken river was fixed?
I don't know anything about that. I woke up like a month ago.
That's a fair point.
But you see some nods from the crowd. The people sitting back in the crowd, they kind of nod as you talk about the overheating.
But the river seems to be okay now.
Yes, we fixed it after escaping this world. It was a hose that had a leak in it, and we repaired that leak.
There's a few gasps.
I have been accused of breaking the soul jar, which is true. I did break the soul jar. Breaking the soul jar was the only way to push the cap off of this world that would allow us to escape out of it and also allow the cool air back into it and the hot air to escape. Because unless we fix something, World 83, like all the other worlds, will eventually get so hot that everyone inside will die.
Is it correct, then, that after you broke the soul jar, the world cooled down, and the river was fixed, and everything was better?
I wasn't around for the immediate effects of fixing the broken river or the world cooling off a little bit, so I can't say for sure, but now that I'm back inside the world, it does appear to me that things are moving in the right direction, I believe.
Okay. And the wizards knew that making you an observer would make you go crazy, and they did it anyway?
I don't know that they knew for sure that it would make me go crazy, but they definitely knew that that was a risk that they were willing to take.
You're not Frith anymore, right?
And that's another difficult question because, on one hand, I'm the same person that I've always been. I'm just operating under different circumstances. So I am physically, sans the crystal, the same person that did all the things that Frith did. But like I said, I have no memory of those things. I certainly don't wish to continue whatever plan Frith was laboring under. And I truly am sorry for all the suffering that I've caused to the people of the Great Forest for what Frith did, for what I did.
And do you feel like there's any of that Frith personality still in you?
I don't, but who can say for sure? It's easy for me to feel that way because I don't have any of Frith's memories, so if I did feel like Frith, I might not even know it. But based on what I've heard of what Frith did and what Frith said to people and just how he behaved in general in the world, I don't feel like I identify with Frith at all. I do feel like Paxton and Quia are the real me and that Frith was a temporary escape from sanity that was outside of my control.
So do you feel like now, do you want to help the people in this world or hurt them?
I absolutely want to help people, and I want to do as much as I can to repair the hurt that I've done to the people of the Great Forest, if that's even possible.
And do you feel like now, if you had met Charles's father, would you have killed him?
I don't think so. I met Charles, and I feel like I was...
He interrupts and he says, "My name is Varen. My name is Varen Bluefire."
Yes, I'm sorry, Varen.
Sorry, Charles.
He grumbles.
Lumpin, do you have any questions?
Yes. Lumpin wanders up to Paxton. So before you were Quia,
Yes.
and then you were Frith,
Yes.
and Lumpin takes a long pause to think, it looked like he's processing all this, and you were sent into our world from outside,
Yes.
and then you left,
Yes.
and now you're back.
Yes.
Lumpin takes another long pause to thought. Why? Why did you... The first time you were forced to come here, but now you're back on... Because you... Why are you back?
There are two reasons that I'm back. The first reason is that once I regained some of my memories that were wiped, not the memories that I had while I was Frith. Those can never be regained because they were stored in the crystal that was destroyed. But the memories that were taken from me previously, I did regain, so I have my full memory of who I was as Quia. And I learned as Paxton about all the terrible things that I did as Frith. So I did want to come back to the City of Two, the Great Forest, to apologize to you all personally and atone for my sins in whatever way I can. But I would be lying if I said that that was the main reason I came back to World 83. The main reason I came back to World 83 is because, and I understand that this is going to sound even crazier because I'm about to agree with some things that Frith said, but there are a non-trivial amount of doppelgangers at play within this world that are trying to infiltrate major world governments, such as the Iron Empire. And I came back to try to spread the word about that happening and try to put a stop to it as much as I can, because I learned more about the doppelgangers outside of this world and got verbal confirmation that they, I don't know, I'm not sure what the right word is, but they definitely want to set up a home in World 83 and take it over for themselves. That's my understanding of what's happening. It might not be true or the whole truth, but that is what I believe currently and why I came back to 83. Paxton looks around the courtroom to see how people reacted to that.
Yeah, people are like kind of dead silent. There's some whispers, like some frantic whispers and stuff, but people, like, this is, like, at first it was kind of funny. People thought you were just kind of insane, but you've just kind of continued talking And like a few pieces of logic have kind of lined up, and you can tell that there's some people who are just kind of shaking their heads and they've basically just checked out. But then there's other people who are just kind of glued in and are just at the edge of their seats, just watching you intently.
Yeah. Paxton is very nervous that the reason that he said he came back is to work against the doppelgangers, which is pretty much was Frith's excuse for doing all the bad things that he did. So it kind of sounds like I'm saying, I'm not Frith, but let's keep going with Frith's plan, right?
Yeah.
So I think we met a doppelganger on the way here, didn't we?
Yes.
The blind guy.
It's possible that we met several. You wouldn't necessarily know, right?
Out of character, didn't at least in my notes, it says we met blind Daryl, and we figured out he was a doppelganger because we cast Zone of Truth on him.
Yeah.
And also we killed him and he morphed into
Yeah.
doppelganger too.
Cool.
And there was also that guy that tried to free me from the cage, right?
Yep.
Do we know that he was a doppelganger?
He said so.
He said that he was a doppelganger, and he literally changed his face to be someone else for a second.
Yeah.
In general, Health could corroborate this too.
Well, Health didn't see all that stuff happen out in the cage because he was in the middle of the battle, but...
No, the last doppelganger.
And the blind doppelganger happened before we were captured by Health, right?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So he wouldn't be able to corroborate either of those.
Oh, he didn't see the doppelganger get killed?
No, he was down in the cave, remember? He was setting up an ambush.
Right. Wait, General Health wasn't in the cave. Health was the guy who drove us.
Yeah, General
no,
Health.
you're right. Sorry,
Yeah,
I'm confused.
General Health
I'm
is
confused.
Roderick. He was...
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it was, my brain is going blank. Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's not in
Yeah,
this
Atolf could corroborate all that stuff, but
he's not here.
He's not in the room.
Dang. Well, only the Lumpins can corroborate.
Yeah.
Brannelford looks at you. Do you have any other questions?
Lumpin takes another 30 seconds to think. So if you are against the doppelgangers, then the doppelgangers are against you. And right now, people here are against you. Another 30-second pause as he thinks. Can the people here be doppelgangers?
That's a possibility. The only way that I've found so far to confirm whether someone is a doppelganger or not is A, to use Zone of Truth and ask them directly if they're a doppelganger, which they don't necessarily have to truthfully. They don't have to answer directly. Or I believe you can use certain magic on creatures to make them revert to their natural shape, like, was it Moonbeam?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me like asking in character because Moonbeam I don't think is a spell I can cast, so.
Gotcha.
Oh, well, that lady can cast Zone of Truth. Maybe we can check.
True. But I don't know. I don't necessarily think that you need doppelgangers to run a trial against me. I think that the things that I've done speak for themselves. So I'm not accusing anyone here of being a doppelganger. I know that is a thing that Frith has done before, and that is the reason why the other observer here is rightfully upset with me. But just because Frith said it doesn't necessarily mean it's not true.
Mm-hmm.
Although in that case, I believe she tried it and found that it was literally not true, right?
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah. Probably should have just not said any of that last stuff, huh?
Consul Brenniflor, he actually he snorts a little bit. There's like a snort laugh as you say that, Paxton. All right, I need the Lumpins you can roll a persuasion check with advantage. So you guys each want to roll one.
All right. I'm going to use the good die.
Let's do it.
9.
Ooh, I got 15, but probably 14 total.
All right. I'm not going to tell you what you got.
Uh-oh.
We'll see. So the Lumpins, they go back to their seats, and Charles steps forward.
Good luck, Charles.
Wait, who?
Sorry, now you got me doing it. All right. Varen, he steps forward, his green cloak swirling around him. He kind of takes a second to pause, and he looks around, and he finally looks at you, Paxton, and he says, so you keep talking about Frith as this past person who you can just kind of conveniently blame for all of your past crimes. He says, well, let's talk about Paxton, shall we?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So, Paxton, I heard that when you first assumed this new identity as Paxton, that you claimed to be a pacifist, was it? Well, how long did it take you, just wondering, how long did it take you to start fighting and killing people?
I guess in the grand scheme of things, not very long. I was a firm believer in pacifism, but quickly ran into situations where peace wouldn't accomplish anything.
Yeah, and so you started killing people again.
I regret that that's the case.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Yes, you did. Okay, just wondering. Also, you claim to be a cleric, right? A holy man?
I am a cleric, yes.
Yeah, so how long did it take you to start using a necromancy mace as soon as you found it?
I mean, yeah, as soon as I found it, it was helpful to me. I don't necessarily see that as a ideological clash.
You don't see a cleric using necromancy magic as an ideological clash?
The ends justify the means.
Oh, that sounds like something Frith would say.
Possibly.
He says,
Healing is necromancy.
Half just, he pats you on the shoulder and he says, I'll tell you later. Charles continues. He's kind of circling you as he's asking you these questions. I would next like to present Exhibition A. And he snaps his fingers and somebody comes over and they're carrying something encased in a cloth. And Charles grabs it and he makes sure that he's only touching the cloth parts. And then he flips over the top of it and you see, Paxton, the cursed sword that you originally had.
I was wondering if that was going to come out.
Here we have a cursed glass sword brought into the city by Paxton, Frith, and his friends. He looks at you, Paxton, and with almost like a fake, curious look on his eyes, and he goes, you had a cursed glass sword. Did you know that it was cursed?
I wasn't aware of what it would do to me at the time that I touched it. Otherwise, I never would have.
Yeah, but you found out that it was cursed, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, and did you know that it was dangerous?
I found out that it was dangerous, yes.
But surely, did you have any opportunities to get it uncursed? The answer to that is yes.
Yeah. As a player, I don't remember, so I'm going to take your word for it and say yes.
So Siegbert offered to buy it from you guys so he could uncurse it, and there was another magic guy who offered to buy it from you to uncurse it as well.
What did we end up doing with it?
You ended up keeping it for later because you wanted to see if you could get more money for it.
So, at what point did it leave my possession?
It left your possession when you were imprisoned in the City of Two.
Oh, so it's still my property.
Yes.
Okay, so what's the problem?
So, sorry, that was out of...
Sorry, that was a blend of in and out.
Yeah,
sorry.
I was answering those questions out of character. But he...
So as soon as he reveals the sword, I'm like, oh, my sword.
Yeah, your sword.
Yeah.
Charles had a sword on the boat, right?
He did.
Vendetta.
This is a different sword, right?
So are you asking these in character or out of character?
Sorry, I'm asking out of character because I don't think Iron Lumpen was on the boat for those things.
Yeah, but you would have seen him pull it out and use it a couple of times. You do remember him having this sword, and that it had this kind of evil glow to it. I don't know if you saw it on the boat, but you would have seen it as he was going to attack the doppelganger.
I think somebody even overheard him talking to the sword in a room. I'm looking at my notes. I don't have great memories of this.
He also has referred to Vendetta's opinion about committing violence and things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to rewind to the point where you were like, and you had the chance to get the curse removed, yes, I did.
So you had opportunities to get it uncursed, but you chose not to. You chose to carry it with you.
Yes.
And you carried it into our great city without a care as to the amount of civilians who could have been harmed by your decision.
I mean, I wouldn't go that far. It was in my backpack. I think the fact that you're bringing it out in the courtroom shows that you are much more careless with it than I was, which is surprising because you have a sword just like this, yes?
Okay.
That you use quite often?
I have a sword just like I have a cursed sword.
What is vendetta?
What is vendetta? What are you even talking? Because this man is delusional, obviously. Because you realize you're the one on trial here, Paxton.
Sure, I apologize. I should not question you about your sword. You're talking about mine.
What sword? And he lifts kind of back his cloak to show his armor underneath, and there's no sword on him. Wouldn't a cursed sword, wouldn't I have to carry that with me at all times? Isn't that how that works? As soon as you touch it, you can't let it go?
I don't know. I'm not a cursed sword expert.
Yeah, but you experienced one when you were carrying around your cursed sword that you brought into our city. So don't you remember that you couldn't quite let it go once you've grabbed hold of it?
I remember that I sure didn't want to, but I eventually did.
Yeah, when it was taken from you, is that correct?
Yes, but I am saying, under a zone of truth, that I have witnessed you with a sword called Vendetta that you used, and you acted very strange afterwards. And I tried to have a talk with you about its dangers, and you held on to it, and then went below deck and talked to it for, I believe, a day.
Yes, well, I definitely believe that you believe that.
Fair.
And he kind of rolls his eyes at the council. Well, let's continue, shall we, in talking about Paxton.
Please make sure to put that sword back in a safe place. And I wink at him.
I'm glad you finally started to care about it. And he nods towards the guy who brought it to him, and he puts the sheet back over it and hands it to the guy. And the guy gingerly kind of carries it out of the room. So you call yourself honest, but you consistently hid the truth from your friends, didn't you? And even from me, when I directly asked you about who Frith was and Frith, when I talked to you about him, you lied to me and told me that Frith was someone else who was gone now.
I mean, Frith is gone now, I believe. And I certainly think of Frith as a different person. I wouldn't say I was lying. I was saying that I was telling my version of the truth. And I think you could certainly understand that Frith is not someone that I wish to be associated with, not someone that I would go around advertising. It would be kind of silly to introduce myself as Frith.
Yeah, sure. Your version of the truth seems to be pretty common. I'm interested, though. You said you came back into the world halfly to defend against some doppelgangers. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then the other half was to apologize for your crimes as Frith. I'm curious why you would somehow forget to mention that you were Frith.
What do you mean?
He just sighs and he continues. Well, so you question.
You remember when you approached me in Arrival at that bar and you said that you wanted me to go with you to the Great Forest to attack Roderick?
Yes.
Do you think that Frith would have gone with you to attack Roderick, or do you think that Frith would have told you to buzz off?
Obviously, Frith would have gone with me.
You think so?
I watched him. Paxton, Frith, the last time you were here, you broke out of prison and put several guards to sleep. You intentionally released a murderous deep druid in the process. Did you know that this deep druid was dangerous?
I escaped the jail because I believed I had a greater purpose in trying to save 83. Whether or not I was justified in that action and whether or not the good that came from it outweighs the bad, I'm not sure. And maybe it was a mistake in hindsight, but in the moment, I felt like it was the thing I had to do. I apologize for any destruction that the deep druid brought.
Yeah, I'm sure. Finally, Paxton, you argue, Paxton the Merciful, yet when you awoke, and he kind of does the quotation marks with his fingers, when you awoke amidst a group of corpses, you left them there to rot. And you see his eyes kind of blaze as he says this. I had to drag the bodies of my father and his men out from the cave-in and bury them myself. Did you see them and leave them to rot?
At the time, it was surprising that I survived the cave-in, that I didn't meet their fate, so I don't think it would be a stretch of the imagination that I was not exactly in the same physical shape that you were when you found them to be able to give them the proper burial that they deserved. I apologize that I was not able to do that.
So you went back then? You went back? Did you go back to bury these corpses you found, or did you leave them there to rot? Answer the question, Paxton.
I did not go back.
He turns from you at that point, and he faces the council, and he turns and faces the audience, and he turns back to you, Paxton. You argue that Frith was a monster who you no longer are. Yet, this is solely based on your testimony and your version of the truth, as you put it. But it seems to me that Paxton isn't too different than Frith, after all. And he pauses.
I'm not a perfect person as Paxton, but if you think that the things that I did as Paxton are on the same level as the things that Frith did, then I think you're the fool in this room. And I think that anyone in this room who would compare the things that I've done since then to the things that Frith did should be able to see through what you're trying to say right now.
All I see, Paxton, are patterns. Patterns that you consistently follow through on. No further questions. And he steps away. All right, now, Paxton, I need you to roll a persuasion with disadvantage.
Okay. So the first one is a 12, and the second one is a 6.
Ooh. Okay.
Definitely shouldn't have talked about moonbeaming the council, huh?
Yeah. The woman walks up, and it seems like she's about to dismiss the spell. Brennelfor kind of lifts up his hand to pause her. Paxton, I'm curious. Who do you think is a doppelganger?
I can't be sure. I don't think that anyone in this... I don't have hunches that anyone in this room is specifically a doppelganger. All I know is that I have heard rumors that there's a lot of doppelganger activity in the Iron Empire, and that is actually where I was on my way to go before Varen sidetracked me with all this Roderick business. So, yeah, I believe if there are doppelgangers to find, you'll find the most of them there. But I have seen doppelgangers herein too, so I don't think that you should consider yourself safe necessarily. But when it comes to how to protect yourself, I don't know what to tell you.
He nods and he thinks about it. And as he's pausing for a second, Atolf actually walks into the room. You see the door open, and he kind of shuffles in, and he finds a seat towards the back of the room and sits down. Brennelfor continues. Who is it in the Iron Empire that you think is a doppelganger?
I think that the Emperor of the Iron Empire is a doppelganger.
Whoa, they're like a huge, massive, like all throughout the crowd, there's a gasp and people start talking. Like people are really trying to process this and take this all in, and people like some of the people who believed you before, now they stop believing you, and there's lots of time. But throughout all of this, you see Brennelfor, he just kind of, he peers at you, Paxton, his eyes narrow, and then he just nods a little bit, and then he sits back in his chair. Finally, Brennelfor goes to the back where the other council members are, and he speaks with them for a minute, and then he returns to his table, and he says, well, Mr. Bluefire was the one to open our discussions. It is only fair, then, that he be the one to begin our closing remarks, and we will let the defenders be the ones to have the final word. Is that agreeable with you, defenders? And he looks at you.
Okay.
Yes.
Charles walks back up. He pops his neck a little bit as he's walking up.
Can we have recess?
Yeah.
I didn't bring a snack.
The Lumpers go outside, start playing tag.
Charles is like just starting to walk up to make his closing remarks, and then Brennelfor hears that and he goes, well, we have been at it for a while. Very well. Recess granted. And he stands, and as he stands, everybody else stands up, and everybody starts walking around and moving around.
Is Paxton like allowed to talk to the Lumpins?
Yeah. So there doesn't seem to, there's some guards kind of centered around, but you do see Dylan Floor. He makes his way towards the front of the public area. Oh, Paxton! I was a researcher, and there were experiments that there were the first judges Paxton, you know there were false charges against me.
False charges, right?
Yeah, is that why they put you here?
Yeah, I don't know. There were false charges against me for the propaganda.
So you have memories from before you were in 83?
What?
I think he was referring to the public indecency charges.
Yeah, so that false charges. I was
Okay, I thought he was implying that he was a researcher that
No.
the mountain wizards didn't like, so they put him in 83, and I'm like, what?
I do not mind that you are a crazy person, Paxton. But there was, no, those were the false charges based on some of the research I was doing. Yes, I just want you to know that because we're friends.
Well, I don't think it's going to matter very soon because they are definitely going to execute me. So, Lumpins, and he bends over to give the Lumpins a hug, and he says, a Tolf is in the back of the room. When they take me away, I want you to go with the Tolf. He will find a good home for you and make sure that you're taken care of.
Okay. Will you come join us after you're executed?
Am I still under zone of truth?
No, she walked up to you after they went into recess and she made a motion with her hand, and you don't feel that obligation to speak the truth anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, Iron Lumpin was going to play in that.
So whenever he says, you'll join me after you're executed, a single tear rolls down. He's like, yeah, buddy, for sure I will.
Okay. Are we allowed to speak to Health?
Yeah, he's there in the main public audience as well. He didn't get up to leave, so he's still standing there. He's crossing his unsleeved arms and kind of looking down at you.
I motion for him to come join us.
Yeah, he steps forward.
Hi, Health.
Hello.
Can you explain how this works? There were 2 counselors, and now there's just 1. Is that normal?
No, not really. The other council member actually is known to be more fair and more willing to hear all sides of an argument, actually, than Brennelfor was, so it's unfortunate that she recused herself from the trial.
Huh.
And Brennelfor is the one that Paxton, and I'm not saying this like in character, but Brennelfor is the one that the other observer said that Frith convinced another observer to moonbeam.
Yep.
Because he was a doppelganger.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the guy judging me whether I'm going to live or not, it's a guy accused of being a doppelganger. And in my defense, I said that the Emperor of the Iron Empire is also a doppelganger.
Yeah.
Definitely going to die.
And the other counselor is that Varen's mom?
Yeah, it's Varen's mom.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And she's been watching all of this take place from a seat to the side of the chamber.
Were we told why she recused herself?
She just said that because of the close personal nature of the trial, that she didn't feel that she could be an impartial judge, basically. And so she...
Yeah, I killed her husband, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. But technically, Frith tried to kill Brennelfor as well.
Yeah.
Brennelfor didn't feel the need to recuse himself. It really comes down to what they feel. If Brennelfor didn't feel like he would be biased, whether or not he actually is, he didn't feel like he would be, and so he didn't recuse himself.
He can accurately judge me guilty. Paxton asks Halth, he says, is this going to be more of like a public execution type thing or like a life in prison type thing?
Hal thinks for a second. Well, it tends to be more of a public execution thing, if I'm being honest, in these kinds of circumstances, but not always. There's definitely exceptions. I've had a few men who committed crimes in the past, and I was able to make it so that they are now actually working for me in the Peacekeepers. So, there's times where it's not always an execution.
If they do execute me, what is their usual method of execution?
You're usually given the choice. It's usually by beast, by blades, or by beheading. If it's beast, it's usually you're being sent to the Kadak. If it's by blades, it's usually in the form of a duel, but the duel is not usually very fair. And then finally, if it's in the form of beheading, it's at the end of the executioner's blade.
Does anybody ever win the duel?
Not that I've seen. In legend, there's been a few famous characters from the stories who've been falsely tried, and then they ended up winning their duels.
Well, I mean, the fact that they won is what makes them falsely tried. Like they're innocent because they beat some people up.
Yeah, well, I guess it wouldn't be a good story if they were guilty and then they also got free. But in the story, they were innocent from the beginning, and then the duel proved that they were actually innocent.
What a messed up justice system y'all have. But, you know.
He just stares at you.
Yeah.
So, Lumpin, I have some things that I want to say to close things out. But do you also have things that you want to say?
I want to ask Adolf if he can help. We didn't get a chance to call him as a witness. Is that too late for that?
Yeah, that's not really fair. Are we allowed to call more witnesses, or is it too late?
The witnesses have to be submitted before the trial begins.
But we didn't know where Adolf was. If we did, we would have submitted them.
I'm not sure it would really matter at this point.
Can we talk to Adolf anyway?
Of course. The recess should be wrapping up here in a few minutes, though, so I would make it quick.
We wave Adolf over.
Yeah, he gets up and he makes his way towards you guys. Gotta get back into this voice. It's been a while.
Did he run away so you wouldn't have to do the voice?
yeah, that maybe it's a very convenient absence. Paxton, I see things are not going well here.
Yeah, that's an understatement.
I'm sorry that I was not able to help you after you were captured. It was very difficult to track you and not be seen by the guards. And then I'm glad that I was able to make it here before the trial ended. If it comes down to it, I might be able to rescue you.
I don't know if that would be a good idea. If they really feel like executing me is justice and that's what they need to put this whole business behind them, then maybe that's doing more for the world than I could by going with you to the Iron Empire, you know. Hindsight's 2020. I regret going to the Great Forest first, but, you know, I'm sorry I won't be able to help you out.
It's all right. We will find a way to get you out of this, Paxton.
I hope so.
He nods. Did you have a question for me, little ragman?
If Paxton doesn't win, if we don't defend him, and he has to fight, can you help him fight?
I am not incredibly familiar with the laws of the Great Forest, but I believe that they call for any defenders of the accused. So it is possible, but I will have to find out.
Oh, can you do... One of the options is fighting a beast. Can you somehow switch them? You're a magic person, right?
What? What do you mean?
So, if Paxton loses, and he has to fight a beast, can you swap them? Can you turn him into the beast, and the beast into him, and that way, Paxton can kill the beast, but he's the beast, and then everyone cheers because they all hate him for some reason, which I still don't think I understand. But then the beast walks away, but it's Paxton.
An interesting suggestion, but I do not have anything in my spell book that would quite create that sort of situation. But I will keep it in mind.
Oh! Can I be the beast? I could be the beast.
Oh, yeah.
I do not feel like this is going. And as he's saying that, Brennelfor steps back into the room and everybody rises and the crowd starts filtering back in as well and people start making their way to their seats.
I'll be honest, I just want an excuse to hear what kind of a horrible monster that Brandon's Lumpin can turn into.
Before he walks off, I want to ask Atulf. Atulf?
Yes?
You know, if this goes the way that it's looking and I end up no longer being Frith, Paxton, or Quia, would you mind looking after these little guys? I look down at the Lumpins, make sure that they're safe.
His face gets a little tight as you say that. Yes, I will take care of them. You have my promise, but it will not come to that.
We'll see.
He nods at you, and then you see Varen making his way up. And he kind of looks at you guys, expecting you to kind of get in your positions.
Okay.
Oh, we forgot to talk about what we're actually going to say.
I got something.
Yeah, so Varen, he steps forward, and Brennelfor says, make it brief, Cloak. Council, let me be clear. Today, we set a precedent. Do we let murderers, terrorists, escaped convicts walk free simply because they have forgotten committing their crimes? What's to stop the next Nightbane from just getting modify memory cast on himself to make him think that some magic crystal made him do it? You guys don't know who this Nightbane person is. He's talking about it, but it seems to be some criminal that he's referencing that most people seem to know about. Whatever the truth behind the situation is, it doesn't really matter. What does matter is that we cannot allow convenient excuses to dictate the course of action. We must instead set the precedent that committing atrocities is unexcusable. There is no spell, no crystal, no reasoning to justify destruction and assassination. No amnesia or insanity to condone murder and deceit. Let today show instead that there is always a price to be paid. Every spell demands a cost. Every evil demands justice. Please, Council, do not allow the price to go unpaid. Do not allow the countless deaths, the blood spilt by this man to be for nothing. And then he turns to the council. Listen, Council. Do you hear the voices of the dead offering their forgiveness to Frith, to Paxton? Do you hear them coming to the forefront to express their grace and forgiveness? Their silence is your answer. Let the accused find his end in that silence as well. He steps backwards. And I'm going to roll for him. I'm not going to tell you how he rolls, but I'm going to roll for him. Okay? Now, Lumpins, he steps away, and Brennelfor nods towards you.
So the Lumpins come up together, or should I just give the speech?
Iron Lumpin is not a speaker, but he will gladly stand by you and just nod at all the emotionally important parts.
We walk up to the center of the room holding hands. Can you describe the room for me once more, Pink?
Yeah, so it's a huge, giant chamber. Towards the very back of it is the kind of the public viewing, but then in front of that you have a witness stand to the left and some chairs to the right. But then you have kind of a raised platform in the center of the room. And then past that, you have a very high table where Consul Brennelfor is standing. And then behind that, you have a ground level table where the other members of the council are sitting. Behind them, there's two giant white barked trees with vibrant green leaves they're just standing up imperiously above everyone, and their branches are overlapping. And they're kind of putting an arch over everything and everyone in the chamber.
Perfect. Okay. The two Lumpins walk up to the center of the room, holding hands. Hempen Lumpin adjusts his tie, which he was not wearing before, and then looks down at some papers that he has drawn a lot of silly-looking doodles in crayon, glances down at them, and then throws them away. He looks up at the audience. What do you call it? He looks up actually at the counselor, the consul. He says, "What is justice?" And he waits a moment for an answer, and no answer comes.
Consul Brennelfor, he interrupts me. Are you actually asking us, or
is justice to hurt someone for bad things that they did? Or is it to make the person feel bad about the bad thing they did? Or is it to make the world more fair? Frith was created when the mountain wizards put a gem in his head and sent him into the world knowing that bad things could happen. And when the gem was broken, Frith died and Paxton was born. If Paxton were punished for what Frith did, what sort of justice would that serve? He already feels bad about it, for what Frith did, and he's trying right now to help the world and make it more fair. In fact, he already did help the world in a lot of ways. He fixed the river. He made the jar cool down. It seems like we'd be punishing Paxton, like Paxton's body, for the things that a different person, Frith, did. Now, I'm not so sure about Charles or Varen or whatever he calls himself and the things he said. Because he lied to us when we met him about who he was and why he was here. And now he's lying about his sword, pretending he doesn't have one, even though he talked to it, and I tried to talk to it and I couldn't hear it. And then he said that truth doesn't matter, which seems like a strange thing to say in a trial. But in my very short time living in this world, I've seen a lot of liars and some good people. And Paxton is a good people. I understand from talking to my good friend General Health that there's normally supposed to be 2 judges at these things. But Consul Bluefire decided not to be a judge because she was too close to the case or too involved. Now, it seems like because of the whole doppelganger thing, Consul Brennifer was also too close to the case. And I'm walking around as I'm saying this, kind of waving my staff about as well. But that's okay, because I think we can still have a fair trial with 2 judges who can be fair and impartial and have lots of experience with trials like this. And as I'm walking and talking, I tap one of the creeping roots of the 2 giant trees that loom over the council chamber, and I cast Awaken.
Awesome.
Did not expect this to be the direction that this was going. Okay.
Now, Hempin Lumpin doesn't realize this, but when you awaken a plant or animal, it is charmed by you for 30 days. But just keep that in mind.
So it's a root of one of those trees or a branch?
Well, the whole tree awakens. I just touched the tree.
Oh,
right?
wow. Okay.
How does Julie feel about that?
Yeah.
Oh, Julie doesn't want to be awakened quite yet. She's not ready until after the wedding. She wants to make sure it's real, you know? Like, if she's charmed, then she won't be certain.
Fair.
Wow.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. So there's an awakened tree stat block I just found.
Roll initiative.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, roll initiative. And it would qualify as a huge. I was wondering if the tree would be too big, but it's saying it's saying huge would be fall under. I'm not going to say that it would be gargantuan. It will just say that it's huge.
Not a kaiju.
Yeah, it would be awakened. Okay. So anyway, sorry. Continue.
I just I'll say to the tree, you've heard everything that happened here, and you've seen lots and lots and lots of trials. What do you think?
So everybody is very confused, and they turn around and look and like are trying to figure out who you're talking to. And then finally, the tree, a huge kind of piece of bark, like shudders for a second on its trunk. It shakes and it breaks open, and you hear a mouth say,
"It seems to me that the man speaks the truth."
And it stops talking.
I was expecting it to just go guilty.
Do you think he's guilty or innocent?
To me, he seems innocent.
Thank you. And I go sit down.
And there's like a stunned silence throughout the entire room. Like nobody knows what to make of the fact that one of these giant trees just started talking.
It's a new legal precedent, huh?
All right. Well, I'll let you roll a persuasion with advantage on that one because that was a cool direction I wasn't expecting. Pavel, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Not for that. No. He literally created a new branch of government over here.
A new branch of government. I like it. Oh, that's good.
Man.
Oh! I rolled a 4 and a 19.
Ooh. There's a silence after you go and said, I'm looking how long this lasts for.
Forever.
It's
permanent.
Actually just straight up alive now. That's crazy.
It's just a sentient tree now. It can walk around if it wants to.
Yeah, I was looking. It says while the tree remains motionless, it is indistinguishable from a normal tree. So It's kind of comfortable in this spot. It's been here for the last, several hundred years, like 600 years. So it doesn't really feel the need to get up and move around or anything like that. But it kind of just goes back to sleeping or whatever. Brennelfor, he kind of gulps, and he seems like he's about to talk, and then his mouth just kind of hangs open for a second, and then he closes it, and then he opens it again, and then he closes it again. And finally, he takes a step off of the table that he's at, and he comes down to the ground floor, and he says, "The council will deliberate. You may be excused for the time being." And he goes, and pretty much all the people are still sitting there in complete silence. Nobody actually makes a motion to leave after he says that. Everybody's still just in shock after listening to the tree talk. He goes over and he goes to the other council members, and he starts talking with them, and they start deliberating, and you guys just hear a lot of very frantic words being said of the other council members. Like, you hear some people kind of arguing, some people seem to be like shrugging their shoulders. It continues in heated debate. Would you guys like to do anything as this is going on?
Paxton wants to ask Lumpin, what did you do to that tree?
Oh, I just woke it up.
I didn't know you could do that.
Oh, yeah. You met Kevin, right?
That's the same thing as Kevin?
Well, no, Kevin's a shrub. This is a tree.
Yep, it sure is.
You see the tree, one of the branches bends back, and it scratches itself, and you hear,
How many centuries was that itch there? Can I talk to the tree?
yeah, if you'd like.
Hi, I'm Lumpin. What's your name?
Hello, Lumpin. My name is Alvin.
Is there anything I can do for you, Alvin? Anything you need?
I would like more sun.
Is this a closed room or?
Yeah, this is a closed room. There's a little kind of window up at the very top, but definitely not very much.
I'll walk over to the council members who are deliberating and tug on Brennelfor's robe to get his attention.
Yes?
Alvin? That's the tree. He says he needs more sun. Do you think you could make a bigger window or something in this place?
We will take it into consideration.
Okay. Thank you.
So Alvin actually means friend of the elves, if you're for anyone interested in where that name actually came from.
Okay.
I've got a friend named Alvi, and apparently that also means the same thing.
Yep.
So did you have a name for a sentient tree prepared before this session?
Yeah, I did, just in case that's where you guys ended up going. I just wanted
Such a good DM.
Every inanimate object in the room he's got a name for.
Yeah, that's right.
Just in case.
And a backstory.
Yeah, you should have
Just in
heard if you
case we true polymorph a desk into a
yeah,
person.
you should have heard
Yeah.
there was some crazy dialogue I had written for that awakened desk, so I'm glad it didn't come to that.
The desk's accent was going to be incredible.
So anyways, they deliberate, and this actually goes on for a solid 30 minutes. They're arguing until finally they actually, weirdly enough, you hear Brennelfor's voice cut through everyone. He goes, "General Houth, please report." And General Houth, he kind of stands up, he looks around, and then he makes his way forward to the council. And they talk with him for a little bit, and he, you see him salute, and then he kind of steps off to the side. And then they actually, interestingly enough, call Alara Bluefire, Consul Alara Bluefire. They call her over as well, and she kind of makes her way over there, and they talk with her for a little bit. You see her nodding, and you actually see her say something with tears in her eyes, and then they nod as she says that, and then she goes back to her seat. And then finally, you see a sigh from Consul Brennelfor, and he makes his way up to the high table and looks down at you with a indecipherable expression on his face.
I wave excitedly at him.
A complete silence has descended over the room. He looks at you, Paxton. He looks at Varen. He looks at the Lumpins. And he says, "Based on the evidence provided, based on the testimony of the witnesses, The council finds the accused.
If anybody needs anything, send me a message. Otherwise, have fun. Thanks so much for doing this. You're doing a great job. I'm excited to hear what happens. See you later.
Thanks, Mike.
Bye.
Bye.
Whew.
Wait, I just remembered. Okay, this time I think I'm going for real. We'll see. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. You guys ready?
Is he really gone?
Yeah, I'm waiting just to no, okay.
Ha ha!
I knew it. I knew it.
All right. This time I'm going to take my headphones off. All right, bye.
Bye.
You know that under a zone of truth, you don't have to volunteer extra information that could harm you.
Yeah. I'm aware of that mechanically, but, in terms of roleplay, Paxton's not necessarily the smartest person.
Shouldn't he be very wise, though?
Yes, but he's under a lot of stress.
Self-imposed disadvantage.
Paxton is a lot like me in the sense that he is just trying to be a good boy and freaks out whenever people don't like him or accuse him of doing something bad. All the D&D characters that I ever roll have some element of like the good and the bad of my personality in them.
Funny, all the D&D characters I play are nothing like me at all. I find it very, very freeing to play a lumpen. I get to be so dumb and not have to worry about, doing well.
You say that, but I remember at one of the Island Oracons you getting very drunk and letting it slip that you're attracted to cacti.
Ha 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 ha.
You heard it here, folks. Brandon in real life is attracted to cactuses.
He said it makes him thorny.
Don't put that in the outtakes, Mike. Don't do it. Don't put it in there.
Nobody's on our side.
No, it doesn't say that. And we're going to pause right there.
That's rude.
Cliffhanger.
Rude. It's nice of your dog to just keep drawing out the tension like
just
that.
a little bit longer.
The dog's like, you're doing it too quick.
Yeah, my dog's name is actually Blitzkrieg. I won a bet with my wife, and so I gave him the most aggressive, ridiculous name I could think of.
Wait, what was her name for the dog?
I can't remember. We made that bet our bet was that I could surprise her with the engagement. And so it was way before we ever got a dog. And so just the future dog that we were going to get, I got to name. I surprised her with the engagement by doing the exact thing that she had asked me not to do multiple times. In my defense, she asked me not to do those things after I had already planned it all out. And instead of being like a smart fiance or husband that would, listen to what she's actually expressed, I was like, no, I already planned all this stuff. I got to do it anyway. But I still won the bet because it was a surprise. Not a very welcome surprise, but a surprise nonetheless.
She did still agree to marry you.
She
so you
did.
something
She did
right.
still say yes, which was a great surprise.
Blink twice if you're under duress.